Okay, so this user on the One Piece subreddit posted this image that depicts some One Piece characters and basically defining whether they're gifted or hardworking. And I definitely have some conflicting opinions about this post. So in the image itself, the characters who are gifted or talented are Sanji, Sabo, Law, Shanks, Ace, and Big Mom, while the characters who are hardworking are Luffy, Kobe, Garp, Katakuri, Akainu, and Zoro. So before we get into my opinion on this post, I'll first define what hard work and talents actually means in the context of One Piece. I define hard work as a relentless dedication to training, self-improvement, and in general just the pursuit of a goal through effort and perseverance. A character that embodies hard work is someone who pushes their physical and mental limits to achieve mastery over certain skills. Good examples of hardworking characters would be people who spend years honing a specific skill, pushing past their natural limitations, or repeatedly facing defeats only to come back stronger. Now, in contrast to that, talents or gifts are an inherent natural aptitude for a particular skill, ability, or form of power. A talented character might grasp complex techniques without much difficulty, possess an unusual physiology, or demonstrate an intuitive understanding of combat or strategy very quickly. While even the most talented individuals definitely still need to train to refine their abilities, their initial progress is much faster than average, and they may reach levels of proficiency and skill that others struggle to achieve despite similar or maybe even higher effort. Now, this doesn't necessarily imply a lack of effort on their part, but rather that their starting point is significantly advanced or their potential ceiling is much higher due to their innate talent. Now, with that being said, it's extremely crucial to note that these categories are not mutually exclusive. Most, if not all, characters in One Piece often possess a blend of both hard work and talent. A talented individual who also works incredibly hard will undoubtedly reach great heights, while a hardworking individual can, through sheer grits, overcome a lack of innate talent. Someone who is extremely talented but does work hard, for example, is like LeBron James from the NBA. The distinction between the two often lies in which factor appears to be the primary driver of each character's strength, so that's why we'll be defining each character here by whether they're more hardworking than talented or vice versa. Okay, so starting with Sanji, him being gifted is largely accurate, but an argument can definitely be made for him being hardworking. Before the Wano arc, Sanji primarily relied on his legs and kicking power to fight, which is the result of years of hard training under the tutelage of Red Leg Zeph. And even after Wano, Sanji still needed that kicking power to fight, but of course with the addition of his exoskeleton and the Jambe techniques, which is something that was gifted to Sanji, he definitely leans more toward being a gifted character. Black leg style in general is also something that Sanji probably has a natural aptitude for, as he is able to adapt very quickly in combat. Luffy being hardworking is of course very natural. Luffy is the quintessential hardworking character, but we can't just pretend like he was not given one of the best devil fruits in the series, of course. The Gomu Gomu no Mi originally is of course just a basic paramecia, but after the awakening, it becomes a mythical god fruit, basically. Gear 5 is also a power-up that Luffy has heavily relied on during the Elbaf and Egghead arcs, so saying that Luffy is nothing but hardworking is also kind of inaccurate. Though with that being said, Luffy of course does constantly push his body to its limits and evolve his fighting style through battle, and his growth is almost always depicted as a direct consequence of his unwavering determination and the intense effort he puts into overcoming impossible odds. Trafalgar Law is definitely undoubtedly gifted here. He is intellectually a prodigy, which allows him to master the Ope Ope no Mi with incredible precision and creativity. His surgical knowledge and strategic mind are also far beyond average, and while he does train to use his devil fruit powers, his ability to conceptualize and execute complex abilities and medical procedures makes him extremely talented. Kobe being hard work also makes sense. He has such a ridiculous work ethic that it even surprises even Garp himself, his teacher. All of the techniques that he uses is also a result of his refined armament haki and striking power in general, which are things that he has trained long and hard for during the course of the series. With Kobe's logic, Garp being hard work also makes sense here. Sabo is definitely a largely gifted character, as he did inherit the Meru Meru no Mi from Ace, but he does know a form of martial art called the Dragon Claw, which does need to be trained. However, now that he mixes the Dragon Claw with his Meru Meru no Mi, most of his power would come from the Devil Fruit, so he is largely gifted now. Katakuri being hardworking is where I start to have problems with this post. While yes, he did train his observation haki to the point where he can see the future a little bit, his fighting style mostly revolves around the use of his Mochi Mochi no Mi. While he does use observation to increase his fighting capability, he still does rely on his Devil Fruit to deal most of his strikes. I'd personally say Katakuri is actually more gifted than he is hardworking, but once again, it's a mix of both for everyone here, so. Shanks being gifted also doesn't really make sense in my head. He doesn't have a devil fruit to rely on, and he is a swordsman, which means he probably has trained a lot to have high skills in swordsmanship. Though of course we're talking about someone who's basically the chosen one in the sense that he rose to power extremely young, as well as possessing an extremely powerful caliber of Conqueror's haki, which speaks volumes about his innate talent, so I guess Shanks being gifted does somewhat make sense. I don't really have a solid opinion on whether Akainu is hardworking or talented. We know he has an extremely powerful devil fruit, but we haven't seen the full extent of what it can do. His haki could potentially be extremely powerful, which would consolidate his labeling of being hardworking, but since we don't actually know how powerful Akainu's haki is yet, this can't really be determined for now. Ace being talented makes sense, as throughout his life as a pirate he has always relied on his Meru Meru no Mi for all of his named and prominent attacks in the series. Big Mom being talented also makes sense. She was born with absolutely monstrous strength when she was a kid that allowed her to completely terrorize the village that she lived in, and then after eating the zoro no Mi, potentially from her adopted mother, she only got even more powerful with her homies. Big Mom in the Whole Cake Island and Wano arc heavily relied on Zeus, Prometheus, Hera, and all the other homies to deliver most of her named attacks, so she's definitely talented here. And the last person to cover here is Zoro, who is hardworking, and I probably don't have to get into the specifics here. He is obviously a very hardworking person, and that is pretty much undeniable. So in conclusion, while there were some inaccuracies like Katakuri and Shanks, this post is mostly accurate with its labels. Once again, the labels that we give these characters do not completely define who they are. So, like for example, Sanji isn't just completely gifted, he has worked hard, and Zoro isn't completely hardworking, he has been gifted with some abilities, but it is often a blend of both for all of these characters. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to click the subscribe and like button, it'll be greatly appreciated, and comment down below what you think. What's your opinion on whether these characters are hardworking or talented? Let me know in the comments. Anyway, I'll see you in the next video.